welcome to the Mariah Jean Fit YouTube channel. I'm Coach Mariah. Make sure you like our videos, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos as much as possible so we can reach a broader audience. We appreciate your support and enjoy the video. Hello and welcome to another vlog if you're watching on YouTube, and podcast by the Fit Minds podcast for those listening on Spotify. Coach Mariah here and the Mariah Jean Fit fam. So today we're going to dive into the topic of habits, forming new habits and perhaps getting rid of some old ones. What's required? Self-discipline, choices, repetition and the like. So sometimes we look at successful people and you might find yourself doing this, thinking, how are they so meticulous? How does this person get up every day at the same time? How do they get to the gym every day? How do they plan all their meals? How do they make this happen? I can't even figure out what shoe to put on the right foot, let alone getting to appointments on time, for example. There may be other aspirations you have, like some career goals, maybe some financial goals, maybe some life goals, and you're finding you're just struggling to hit them. You're struggling to even get anywhere close to basically getting them started. And this all comes down to forming habits. So especially if you've got a long-term project, majority of the population will not understand how to tackle a long-term project because most people are facing their days as they come. It is fantastic to live mindfully and in the moment for sure. But if you've got some big goals, things that you want to achieve in life, whether it be the way that you look or whether it be something a little bit more complex and deeper, like who you are as a human being, or maybe you wanted to quit smoking, maybe you wanted to reduce your alcohol consumption, maybe you've wanted to spend some more time with friends and family and spend less time at work. There are lots of different goals that you can have as a human being. And it's actually well known that we like to grow as human beings. We like to change and we like to learn. And for those who feel stale and stagnant, it might seem that they've kind of lost their way in forming new habits, figuring out that there was a point in time in your life where learning was exciting. When you were younger, when you were a baby, when you were a kid, you remember that feeling of learning a new project or a task, or it might be things like riding a bike, even something as simple as walking, for example. Reading, writing, learning mathematics, whatever your passion is, whatever when you were younger you thought, wow, this is so intriguing, so interesting. It didn't even have to be anything in school. It could have literally been that you liked finger painting. Something that set your heart on fire. When you were a kid, obviously we had lots of neural connections happening there where basically we were like sponges for information and we really were quite eager to learn. So what happened? What happened when you grew up? What happened when you got older and you had to adult? Basically, most people lose their fire because they get stuck in the repetitious process of what is comfortable for them. When you get to adulthood, you think that that's it. I'm here now, I'm comfortable, I'm surviving, I'm paying my bills, I'm getting through, I'm just getting through. Wouldn't you like to be in a position where you're not just getting through, where you're actually thriving, right? Everybody wants to be in that position where they're waking up every day and going, fuck yeah, I can't wait to tackle my day. I'm so excited. When you're a kid, getting excited to go to school or getting excited to go to school camp, or it might have been something like getting excited to go to the park. But really, truly living, right? So instead of being stuck in these constant cycles of, I wish I could, but I can't because it's too hard, and I'm not sure what I need to do to get there, we can actually work on changing our habits. It's one of the fundamental parts of growing and changing and achieving something is actually changing the way that we function, the way that we process things internally, and what we do, what literally our behaviors, our thoughts, our actions and our choices. So a little bit of a background into my own shift from a mindset of instant gratification to delayed gratification. I do talk about this a lot in podcasts. I am not a person who has been incredibly driven my entire life. Perhaps, yes, I was incredibly stubborn as a child, But there was a stage there through my teenage years where I practically just hit a wall. Most of us did at some point, right, when we were younger. And I didn't really pursue anything with any sort of longevity. I was literally living from week to week with my finances, with my work situation as well. I was just rocking up to work when I needed to and doing the job I needed to get paid. And I was living from week to week with my paycheck as well, buying things that made me feel happy very quickly. But I didn't really have anything in my hands that was worth anything internally for myself for the longevity. So I didn't have an education, there was no passion there was nothing that I was really aiming for. And as a result, I felt myself, and not just obviously because of my goals, but my lack of goals, I felt myself sinking. My nutrition was atrocious. There was a stage there from the age of about 15 to 18, 19, where I ate like an asshole and I drank a lot of alcohol, and there was some drug use in there as well. And I smoked. I was a full-time smoker. And pretty much everything I did in life was driven from the quick thing that I could get in the moment to make me feel better. Even my relationships were really surface level. I was, in and out of different relationships, not really able to establish deep connection because I wasn't really in it for the long run internally. And my work didn't really reward me either. I felt myself pushing and wanting to be better and go somewhere, but I had nowhere to go in the place that I was working at, and there was no kind of future there for me. So for me, I sunk into this state of depression and anxiety, feeling like I wasn't worth anything and I was never going to amount to anything. And I also physically felt like crap. I wasn't taking care of myself. And I was anxious. I was constantly anxious because I didn't have anything in front of me to work towards. I didn't realize that was why. Because as human beings, if we have a whole lot of unknown, we can sometimes fill that with noise of things that probably aren't real, or perhaps we might even convince ourselves of a certain narrative. But there I was, lost, without goals, without purpose, and certainly not really understanding how to even change that for myself. So fast forward to now, obviously my mindset is incredibly different, but I don't live a life of, fast, quick fixes or rushes. I don't drink alcohol, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, and there isn't anything on a daily basis that I'm doing for some sort of instant gratification. Other than social media, which I think is definitely something a lot of people could work on, is their time on social media. I don't really give myself any sort of guilty pleasures regularly throughout the day. My nutrition is very balanced, and I get to the gym 5 times a week, and I make sure that I have, these sustained healthy relationships with the people I care about, and my career is thriving. In fact, my business is at its best it's ever been, and it's something that I want to do for the rest of my life. I found my purpose. I'm also a double pro athlete and a national champion in women's. God, men's I'd be a lot bloody more jacked than I am now, but women's bodybuilding in figure. And that, didn't come from a position of the girl I used to be when I was 16, 17. I'm certainly a different person now. It came from obviously weeks and months of hard work leading into that moment. Years of training before I even competed for the first time. 7 years of training before competing for the first time. Because I was patient, and I also knew that it wasn't the be-all and end-all to compete, that my training was my happy place and certainly a project that was ongoing for me. And I knew that, getting to the best place with that would be a case of knowing I was ready when I was ready. So obviously we have the polar opposite differences between when I've gone from that deep struggle to great success, right? Now, this is just my own personal experience, but I'm going to tell you that the way that I slowly edged my way there was in realizing how responsible for my life I really was, and I still am. How responsible you are for your conditions and your environment beyond what you would really give yourself credit for. There are a lot of people walking around kind of doing the whole, I am a product of my environment and my circumstances, and that's it. They are literally allowing the world around them to dictate the way that they exist and the way that they function. And that is a really scary place to be in, to feel like you don't have any control and to feel like you have no purpose and to feel like that you don't know how to change that. So the points I'm going to address today with habit changes and forming new habits and getting rid of old habits will focus on some major problems versus solutions, as I always do, but obviously addressing the individual breakdown of everything, and kind of for you as well, for you to understand that you don't actually have to be an incredibly gifted human being to do anything that you want to do in life. You do not have to be gifted. You might listen to my podcast and think, gosh, Mariah, she's come such a long way and it's so inspirational, and I wish. You need to stop yourself right there. You don't wish, you do, right? If you want to improve yourself, if you want anything, if you want a change of behavior, if you want a change of lifestyle, if you want a change of physique, if you want a change of career, you must action what's required to get there. You cannot sit in I want, I wish, because none of that is action-based or even promotes the idea of change. Okay, so we have to take you out of I wish, I want, to I will, I am, this is how I'm going to do it, this is what's next. Because the first step to changing habits is, yes, having a goal, right? It's like, okay, cool. Getting out of that position where you have nothing and you have no drive and no motivation. It's not like some sort of magical thing that gets zapped into your hands. Like all of a sudden you're this super driven person who gets up at 5 a.m. every morning. It's not like, you can't teach that. You can't even instill that type of mentality like that, right? You can't. It's not a type of human. Okay, so get that out of your head. It's not a type of human who is disciplined. To become disciplined, it starts with having a goal, giving yourself purpose. Now, you may have a series of goals. I do. I've got many goals. I want to buy a house. That's my next big goal, right? I know what my 5 to 10 years looks like. I don't know exactly how long all of these goals are going to take, but I certainly know what the start of that is what do I want? You must ask yourself, what do I want for myself? Do I want a long life? Cool, I'm probably going to have to quit smoking because that shit's bad for me, right? Do I want to enjoy more time with friends and family? Cool, that means I'm going to have to reduce my hours at work because I've been working way too much lately. I might have to figure out how I'm going to do that. See how we start to set up in your life what you want for yourself, not what your mum wants, not what your sister wants, not what your partner wants for you, but what do you want for you? And most people won't even ask themselves this question, including parents. Parents kind of have kids and then they're like, oh no, it doesn't matter what I want anymore. I'm sorry, but that's bloody sad. If you get to that stage in your life where you no longer have wants and needs and you give up yourself to everyone else, you're going to get to later in life and say, I actually regret that massive chunk of time that I lost, right? So there are going to be wants and needs that you have, and it's okay to have them. Don't feel guilty for having them. You're a human being with your own heartbeat, separate to the people you're taking care of. You have wants and needs and they're valid. So have your wants and have your needs and make them goals. Write them down, put them somewhere that you can see them. Number one, first biggest mistake I see with people having goals and wanting to create new habits is just having the goals and they're all up here. They're all in your mind. What's the point in having something that you want for yourself and then just not communicating it? It's like it's all up here. I'm sure there's something that you want in your mind that you haven't spoken to somebody about because you're scared, because you're worried they're going to judge you. You're worried that they're going to say that you won't be able to do it. If they are notorious for saying that type of shit to you, please don't tell them. Tell somebody who really cares. Talk to someone that you know is going to receive it well, or even just, if you don't want to talk to anybody about it, write it down. There is nothing that hurts just putting it on paper. Like, it's not going to hurt you writing down, I would like to save $10,000 in the next 6 months towards my first car. It doesn't matter what your goals are, right? That's what I did. My first car, I went, I want to save $10,000 towards my first car in cash, which I did, and I bought my own first car at 18. I wrote that down. I started writing down goals. I've been doing this since I realized I had to get myself out of my funk when I was about 18. I started in my notes in my phone. You can put it in a diary. I don't care where you put it. Put it on the mirror, put it on a whiteboard, whatever works for you. Or make a voice recording to yourself. These are my goals. I want to achieve this in a year. And then send yourself a reminder in your calendar to listen to that voice recording maybe every week, just so that you know, okay, this is where I want to go. But use a method that puts your goals and thoughts on paper or on phone, digital version, or on the wall or on a chalkboard, wherever that you're going to see it. That you're going to remind yourself, or your background picture on your phone, that you're going to remind yourself of what you want daily. Daily. You need to be reminded of these goals daily. So I started making goals on my phone, and I started making these goals no matter how outrageous I thought they were. And I made goals for 6 months, goals for 3 months, goals for 6 months, goals for a year, goals for 5 years, goals for 10 years, goals for 20 years. I know, it's like massive stuff. Now, you might think that's ridiculous. Why would I make a goal for 20 years' time? I don't even know where I'm going to be in 20 years' time. I went back and I used to email my goals to myself, right? I'd email them to myself once I completed them, and I'd email myself goals that I'd had for, the next 5-10 years. Would you believe I have achieved every single one of them, even if they were really small goals, right? I've achieved every single one of the goals that I set for myself since I started doing this since I was 18. And again, I'm not super talented. I'm really shitty with time. It's something I'm getting better with, but I'm late for everything. That's one thing I know that I need to improve a lot with, and I have, but I need to improve even more with. So I probably should write that down as a goal. But I've gotten so much better with time. Since I was, 18, my time management has gotten far better than what it was. But I wrote them down and I've achieved them. I've looked back at these emails I sent to myself, and I've been astonished at things that I wrote down. I thought, oh, that'll take forever, or oh, I'm never going to get there. And I did. Madness to think that writing things down is the first step. So the next step after that, after writing down your goals, is to figure out what the plan of action is for the next steps, right? So it's like, okay, cool, great having a goal, but the biggest mistake I see made with this is that people go, I've got this great goal, I'm so excited about it, I'm gonna get really fit, and I'm just gonna be so good with my food, and I'm gonna start this university degree, and then smack, reality hits them in the face because they've promised themselves they're going to achieve this amazing thing. And then all of a sudden, the second any sort of adversity hits them, oh, bugger, can't do the thing I set out to do. Oh, yeah, so I was gonna save for a car, but then, my dog had an accident, and now I've got it's sad, very sad stuff, but my pet's had an accident, and now I've got to put $2,000 towards that. And, I'm not going to be able to afford the car now. And the immediate dissatisfaction and disappointment experienced from that adversity then basically lights the goal on fire. Bye, goal. See ya, off in the distance, and then forgotten again for another 6 months until you get that burst of energy again. I'm going to give you a news flash. People who achieve goals don't achieve them seamlessly. They don't. I have set myself numerous goals in the last 6 months to a year, and I have been smacked in the face with reality numerous times, like dozens, hundreds of times, in literally like a wooden spoon to the face, with the reality of I got sick, this bill came up, had to do this first, this study was due, this university assignment was due, couldn't make that event because I had to go to another one. Yeah? Had to cut my workout short because an emergency happened. The list goes on. And obviously with parents, this is going to be far more frequent because you've got other humans in your life, right? But you have to get better at the idea that, and thinking about this, right? That when you make a plan and you start to go, okay, this is what I need to do, right? In your world, in your mind, it's going to go this way perfectly, right? It's going to go amazing. You need to be okay with the idea that it will be rocky as hell. It's going to go up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down until you get to the goal. And in fact, it may even delay it even longer. And you're going to get impatient and you're going to get frustrated. Guess what? All of that is completely normal. You are not exempt from frustration towards achieving something you want. Every single bloody human being on this earth has to struggle at some point. Even people who are privileged. There's going to be something in their day that pisses them off, something frustrating. They're going to drop something. You know, there's going to be moments that will test you, and you have to be okay with that. Structure, planning, routine, okay, is a part of that first process, implementing that, okay? And then obviously being okay with adversity, being okay with the fact that you're going to be uncomfortable. Like, you're going to be uncomfortable a lot. In fact, you're probably going to be uncomfortable more than you're going to be comfortable, especially if you're trying to change something. So getting used to being uncomfortable, getting used to discomfort. My mother used to say to me all the time, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And my God, as a kid, I hated that saying. It's like, what do you mean get comfortable with being uncomfortable? I hated that. What do you mean? Why would I have to be uncomfortable? And now I get it. I really do get it. It's so much discomfort comes before you get this delayed gratification. So you can't expect something to feel amazing all the time, or even a lot of the time, if you're wanting something that actually takes a long time to achieve. You're actually waiting for the big thing to feel good. So that's going to take time of lots of, discomfort and not feeling good. So the next point is, forming habits is the fundamental way human beings follow patterns of behavior and default settings for our subconscious brain, right? So when we form habits, it actually requires a whole lot of conscious thinking. So have you ever tried to do something new? It might be like learning how to do a handstand. It might be like learning how to do makeup for the first time, or getting better at things that you just suck at. And in your mind, I've just always sucked at this. That whole, I've never been good at this. It's this really self-defeating type of internal talk. And even sometimes you even say it out loud. It's terrible. But we have these conscious thoughts, which requires the conscious part of our brain. We have to think really hard for this stuff, right? Learning new things requires lots of hard and deep thought. And it's difficult, it's frustrating, it hurts your head. Anyone who's done study will understand this. It's shit. Learning how to do something, learning systems, learning procedures is difficult. And it's because it requires conscious thought. You actually have to be present for it. You can't be distracted by things. You have to be there in the moment, thinking about the thing that you're wanting to achieve, right? So conscious thought to then hopefully imprint subconscious behavior. So think about it this way. You used to forget to brush your teeth when you were a kid, and you had to be reminded. Okay, so when we're kids, we're new to this world, right? And we're trying to learn new habits and form new habits and behaviors then, and our parents helped us out with that. But they would remind us, brush your teeth, brush your teeth, brush your teeth. No, I don't want to brush my teeth, brush your teeth. I don't want to brush my teeth. Or sometimes, honestly, when you're a kid, you go to bed at night, Mum, and you go, shit, I forgot to brush my teeth. Should I get up and do it? So brushing your teeth. Now, who can honestly say to me as an adult now, if you don't brush your teeth before you go to bed, and I would say it's all of you, oh my God, that feels weird. Teeth are I gotta go brush my teeth, right? Because you've conditioned your brain right before you go to bed, the last thing you do is to brush your teeth. And now it's autopilot. Now it's subconscious. And now you don't even have to remind yourself. You don't have to consciously remind yourself. You don't have to set an alarm to brush your teeth. You just do. You go to the toilet, you have a shower, whatever, and you brush your teeth. That's just a process that happens every night. And you feel weird if you don't, because your brain knows that fairy teeth means you haven't brushed them. And it would be very few and far between that you don't brush your teeth anymore by default. So how do we form these new habits? Just like brushing your teeth, it takes time, consistency, lots of repetition, lots of reminders, and lots of difficult conscious thinking to get that done. So you're going to have to ride out this period of forgetting, needing to be reminded, not really feeling like doing it, but having to do it anyway, telling yourself you've got to do it anyway because you want to achieve the end goal. And the thing is, brushing your teeth is going to be actually one of the easier habits to form, because there's an instantaneous reward. You brush your teeth, you get clean teeth. You brush your teeth, you get clean teeth. The delayed reward for that is less cavities over a long period of time. Okay? So just like brushing your teeth, if you have learned how to brush your teeth every single night, I can guarantee you there is not a single habit in the world that you cannot learn. Right? because you now don't get cavities, or at least you probably don't have as many cavities, right? Because you brush your teeth. Okay, cool, we've established that. So, to get these habits formed as our default settings, we start with making these conscious decisions driven to wire the subconscious to autopilot. Ooh, this sounds good. How did I get into autopilot with my training? How did I know that in probably about half an hour, I'm going to be heading off to the gym? Because why? Because I've done this every day, or 5 days a week, 5 to 6 days a week for the last 10 years. How have I been so consistent? Because it's autopilot now. For me, it's just second nature. I don't even know why people ask me how I do it. I just do. It's just ding, light goes off, go to the gym. Okay, cool. So we want to get to autopilot with the things that we want to achieve over a long period of time, because obviously we know there's behaviors that we need to get right over time. So, however, some decisions/choices are harder than others to cement as a conscious routine. Okay, we know that. Yes, Mariah, that's fantastic, but getting to the gym it's a pain in the ass, all right? I hate it. Okay, cool, I hated it too. Nobody really knows that I didn't just start going to the gym and then all of a sudden I was like, oh yeah, I'm so inspired by myself. I'm just going to go to the gym every single day for the rest of my life. Or you shouldn't do it every day, but 5 to 6 days a week, 2 rest days, 1 to 2 rest days for the rest of my life, just like that. No, it took me 2 years. 2 years with both my training and my nutrition to get into a regular routine. The first year was an interesting one. I would train once a week for a few weeks and I get this gust of motivation. Once a week, I'm not kidding. I thought once a week was a really heroic effort. And then I wouldn't train for weeks on end. Yeah, and I was so pissed off with myself. Why am I not getting there? Because I kept going home and napping instead. I picked something that was going to give me an instantaneous reward. I picked the instant gratification instead of delayed gratification. It took me an entire year to start being regular with the gym. So at least 5 days a week. And then I couldn't stop doing it. It was so addictive. I was like, holy shit, this is what everyone's been talking about. I love it. Right? Because I started experiencing the long-term benefit of going to the gym 5 to 6 times a week. And you can't experience that if you're not doing it regularly. And I mean regularly every single week for months on end. So I started realizing, oh my God, it's not a week of training every day. It's weeks and months and years of training 5 to 6 days a week that's going to make the biggest difference across a long period of time. So the more consistent I could get, the better. And my food was the same. I was, oh my God, look, honestly, I did have an okay, knowledge of nutrition and balance, but I hadn't found my balance. And I was not eating enough for quite some time, probably the first 2 to 3 years of my fitness journey. And I really got quite sick as a result. So it took me a long time to get my nutrition balance right too. Lots of practice, lots of mistakes. So the next point, forming habits means creating a behavioral pattern or series of choices. See, that's series of choices, not just one choice, series of choices, and they all match up together for what you're wanting to achieve in the end, whereby we begin to do something consciously and whereby it takes a lot of effort, is taxing mentally or physically, or even slightly inconvenient. But then it goes on to become natural, second nature, or even a part of everyday life. See how it goes from being a pain in the ass to being something that you can't live without, okay? But you can't get there without getting through this shit bit, right? There's a shit bit, and there's lots of shit bits until you get through to that part of your life. So going to the gym is something that takes time and practice and repetition and making lots of mistakes, fucking up a lot, and getting right back on as soon as you can. Not sitting and wallowing in what you haven't done or what you haven't achieved, only to feed into that monster of, well, I will never ever. So behind every successful human being is hours, days, weeks, months, and years of commitment. But trust me, in that, there is persistence, mistakes, heartbreak, struggle, dedication, frustration, innovation, so whereby we actually find ways around things, right? Improvement, learning, humility, strength, and keeping an open mind. In this process, you will be challenged. Your ego will be challenged. You think that where you are right now is pretty dandy and you're doing all right. And you know what? A lot of people are. They need to give themselves credit. But going through a journey where you have a goal to be better or achieve something for yourself teaches you humility. It teaches you that it's okay to not be perfect, and the only way to get closer to that thing you want is to keep trying. So don't ever wish for what someone else has. This is massive. Don't stop it. Stop doing that. Please stop doing it. Don't look at my life and go, I wish I had what you got. No, you don't. You don't wish for the, years and years of depression and anxiety and the troubles I went through, the individual, and everybody has, but you don't wish for my story. So don't wish for what I've got, because it comes with all that other shit. You don't wish you have what I have. You wish for something for yourself, which is completely separate of me, and completely separate in that you are a separate human being. You have a completely different story and a completely different set of circumstances, feelings, emotions, self-esteem, personality, skills, you name it. You cannot wish for what somebody else has. That's so important. Stop doing that, because it will not actually help you get what you want. It's completely separate. Endeavor to be and apply yourself to the methods and behaviors required to achieve a similar goal that's your own on your own timeline. On your own timeline, which will vary per person. It's not like, oh, how long did it take you to achieve that for yourself? Look, some people, if you think about it, there are some great authors and artists that spent decades of their life poor, unknown, struggling, and then all of a sudden they had a breakthrough at 50. I know, mad, right? I think something about the guy who invented KFC. He owned KFC. He was ancient before he made it. He was ancient before KFC was even a thing. It's crazy to think that you put this expectancy on yourself to achieve something in a certain amount of time based on somebody else's timeline and set of circumstances. It doesn't make any sense, so stop doing that also. On your own timeline. The next point. Some habits, this is interesting, you hear this a lot. Oh, it takes 21 days to break a bad habit, or 21 days to form a new one. That's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's not true. It's a great saying, because it does teach people this, it's longer than a couple of days of heroic efforts to get towards forming a habit. Some habits take 7 days, minimum of 7 days to form, they're really, really easy ones, okay? Or even well over, are you ready for it? 365 days, yes, it's a whole year, to form a new habit. One new habit. I know, you're thinking to yourself, I didn't have that time. Well, what are you doing for the rest of your life, mate? Seriously, I just want to be good at it now. No, again, another news flash. You're not going to be, especially not if you keep making mistakes with it. It's going to take a lot of persistence and a lot of stubborn energy and a lot of I want more for myself, always. So 365 days is the longest amount of time. Honestly, there could be habits out there that take even longer, right, to form. So, and it differs for everybody. So for example, for one person to quit smoking or, maybe get their shit together with their training, whatever, it might take one person 3 weeks, it might take another person a year and a half, right? It's actually mad, but I know it's crazy. Your brain operates differently to mine. I honestly have worked with so many clients over the last few years, and I've noted that they either seem to struggle with, there's obviously 3 aspects of nutrition, fitness, and mindset. There's those 3 pillars, right? And they'll struggle with. Most people will struggle a little bit with mindset, for sure. Some people will struggle really strongly with mindset, absolutely. And then for nutrition, there might be someone who struggles with mindset and nutrition, but they're great at their training. There might be someone who struggles with all 3. There might be someone who struggles with their nutrition and the training, but not their mindset. So they've definitely got the right mindset, but their nutrition and training, they're not that enthusiastic about it. So, and then I suppose actually mindset would come into that as well. But I do have some people who literally are bang on with their, fitness and their mindset, and their nutrition is absolute trash, and they just can't get that right. Every individual person is completely different. You're going to know your weak points and your struggle points. You are. And just take a moment in this podcast to think about them. Think about the things you struggle with the most. How long have you been avoiding those for? Oh, How long have you been sweeping them under the carpet? I'll just deal with that later. I'll do the things I'm really good at, but I'll deal with the thing I'm shit at later. Put your ego aside. Smack yourself in the face with a wooden spoon of the reality and say, I currently suck at this. Okay, I currently do suck at this. Not, oh, I just suck at it and always have. I currently feel like I suck at it. I want to get better at it and I'm going to. And this is going to go on the top of my pile. This is the top of my priority list. The things you're good at, stop bragging about them. Oh, I've been great with my training. I've been great with this. My mind's in such a good place. Have you been better with your nutrition? Have you been paying attention to what you've been putting into your body? No, but I've been doing the other things that I'm already really good at though. So like, can I have a gold star, please? No, you cannot have a gold star for being good at the things you're already good at or that you have already become adept at. Smack yourself in the face with a wooden spoon, take responsibility. You're not a shit person for not being good at something right now, and apply yourself like you did when you were a child to something that you wanted to be better at and that you knew would be a delayed gratification later, right? Teaching children delayed gratification. They get a bank account when they're younger, and if you put a $2 in here every week, you're going to have savings, when you're older, right? Teaching them this delayed gratification. Teach yourself the delayed gratification, that the difficult thing, the thing that you suck at right now, is what you've got to change with your habits, okay? So, next point. Habits require the fundamental steps, as we mentioned, the idea, the goal, the commitment to the goal, which I see a lot of is committing to it, but they're not actually executing it. So actually committing to the goal that you've got in your mind, writing it down, plan the process required for the goal, both short and long term. So when we get to the planning part of things, you can't just plan, oh, I'm going to get a training plan, I'm going to get a nutrition plan, and then that's it, right? What are you going to do short term? What are you going to do daily to make sure that you get that done? What do you need to do daily? Not me, I'm not going to motivate you. What do you need to do daily to make sure that you get the thing done? You cannot rely on somebody else to do something for you that fundamentally requires you to do it. It makes no sense. Do not approach somebody like a coach or a mentor and say, oh, I just need you to motivate me. No, mate, you've got a problem with your own motivation and discipline, and you probably need that person to teach you how to motivate yourself, okay? Like when you learn to drive a car, did you ask your parents or whoever taught you how to drive a car to drive the car for you, to teach you? No, you got in the bloody steering wheel, you got behind it, you started driving. And you shit your pants. Okay, but now you know how to drive and it's become second nature. I still have no idea how to reverse park, and I'm just gonna have to admit that. But you didn't get your parent to drive for you. So motivation and drive and discipline is exactly the same. You do not need someone to kick you up the bum and motivate you. Stop asking for it. Start taking responsibility for your own motivation and drive and discipline. And I can guarantee you will find out that motivation is it's minuscule. No joke. It is like this, like willpower. You have the smallest amount, everybody has the smallest amount of willpower every day. But what we must do is we must access a part of our brain that actually says to ourselves, I need to do this thing even though I don't feel like doing it, because it's going to get me to here, all the way towards the end of the thing that I've written down, right? So discomfort, pain, struggle. You don't need motivation. You need to embrace the shit bit. You need to actually want, I know, right? Want the thing that's uncomfortable because you know what it achieves. Okay? So stop glorifying comfort and feeling amazing about everything. So this is this nitty-gritty part of the planning and executing. So the short term is that what do I need to do daily in order to get to this end result that I'm wanting. Now the long term is, what are the things I know I need to do? What's something I know I need to achieve by 3 months, by 6 months? It doesn't have to be numbers. It could be like, okay, I would like to feel comfortable in a bathing suit after 3 months, or I would like to be not working 60 hours at work. I'd like to be working 50 in 3 months. Okay, achievable long-term goals. And then obviously if it's something like saving for a house, okay, in 3 years' time, I would like to have saved a $50,000 deposit or whatever it is that you're needing to save. See how we've got these, and okay, so what would be required on a micro level, short term, to achieve that goal, long term? And actually breaking that down, it would require me earning enough money to save this amount of, or even saving money, not spending it in certain areas to save this amount each week, month. Do the calculation as to what's going to get you there. So the breakdown of short and long-term requirement to get to that long-term goal, okay? Or even short-term goals as well. It doesn't really matter how long the goal is or what the goal is, but it does have a breakdown of short and long-term requirements, okay? Small and big projects. And then the big projects have small components as well. Yes, you have to think about this stuff. If you don't, you are coasting, you're gliding, you're floating, and it's shit. Stop doing it. Okay. If you don't like this podcast, turn it off now and keep doing what you've been doing for the entirety of your life. But stop listening to the people who have achieved these things for themselves, because trust me, this is how it's done. This is how literally anybody who has become successful long-term at anything has achieved something. So the next point in this is obviously when we go through that period of discomfort and we're creating this structure and this routine and the short-term versus the long-term actions required, and we're starting to piece this together. It's all written down and we've got, great, this is the sequential order and these things are in my diary. It's looking fantastic. And there's obviously going to be setbacks. We know that, right? You also have to realize that you've got to remove distractions. It's all good and well to have things in your life that you want, but if you have constant distraction from that, you're not going to achieve it. So you have to audit your life and look at what's distracting you from these new habits you're trying to form. I've said this in previous podcasts. Is it social media? Is it the fact that you're going to the pub every Friday and you're using 3 hours, drinking by the bar? Whatever it might look like. Audit your life and look at how much of what you're currently doing and the amount of time you honestly are using doing certain things is chewing up the time you could be giving to the long-term goal that you really want, okay? So removing distractions, it will be very difficult to do this because a lot of these distractions are the things that are getting you through temporarily and the things that are not going to serve you long-term and probably you're not going to remember. Like 10 years from now, do you remember how many TikTok videos you watched last night for an hour? No, right? But you remembered what you achieved. Interesting. So be mindful of the time that you give to certain things to remove the distractions so that you can give more time towards the habit-changing behaviours. Prioritize the environment circumstances required for the actions to be successfully executed. So it's like, okay, cool. If you know that you want to, for example, keep a clean home, then that would obviously mean that you need to put in your planner every day to vacuum your floors daily or to have it done at the same time every single week. Because if that's a goal of yours, you need to obviously change the environment. So make sure you're setting yourself up. If your gym membership, if you're trying to go to the gym more regularly, if your gym membership is at a gym where it's 45 minutes away from where you live or where you work, probably not very viable and you need a gym that's closer, you might have to sacrifice some other things, but if time is a problem for you, changing that environment and those set of circumstances can help you get closer to your goal more effectively. So set yourself up. And obviously, as I mentioned, facing adversity, struggle, challenge, mistakes, setbacks, accepting discomfort, and learning, reflecting, moving forward, and repeat, repeat, repeat. So in all of that, all the fuck-ups, all the mistakes, which are going to happen, you cannot avoid them, so please stop trying to do that. Embracing the discomfort. In that, you have to accept that it's a part of the journey. You must accept it's a part of the journey. You cannot pretend like it's going to go smooth the entire way through. However, after those, move forward. Stop sitting in it. Sit in it for as little time as possible. If there's anything I've ever learned in life, the less time that you give a problem once you've got a solution, even though you need to feel, you need to feel and just sit with it as long as you need to. But if that drags on and affects the rest of your life to an extent where you realize, holy shit, I either need to process this or I just need to just drop it, okay? Moving forward time is moving forward constantly, so you need to move forward with it. And then repeat, 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 repeat. Probably the biggest point of habit changing is repetition. You can't change a habit if you do it once a day, for 3 days, and then you just go, oh, can't be bothered next week. It requires lots of repetition and repetition through periods of discomfort, okay? So still repeating the thing that you know you need to do to achieve the end goal, even though it sucks, That's the whole point. The repetition isn't reliant upon your emotional balance. It's actually it's reliant upon the idea that you want the delayed gratification, the thing at the end. Okay, we keep talking about the thing at the end. So in that, be willing to accept there is no end to improving, growing, and learning. Okay, so crucial, and probably something that successful people, and I say successful people meaning just anyone who's been successful at achieving something they've wanted to achieve long term, and they do it quite a lot. Like, pay attention to what they're doing and what they're saying. Be okay with the idea that you need to constantly improve, grow, and learn. Be humble and put your ego aside. As much as I might talk with confidence and conviction in my podcasts, in my coaching, I am so open to learning new things, and I actually thrive in that environment. I love knowing and I love being taught new things. So for me, it's kind of like rocket fuel. Look at it that way instead of looking at it like an insult to your ego. So our days are a series of choices. Fundamentally, the choices you make have a lot to do with where you end up at the end of the day, week, and month. I've spoken about choices before, but if you keep blaming other people, circumstances, whatever in your life, I can say again from personal experience, but this is going to be something that's across the board. Oh man, if there is anything to be hit with, I think I've pretty much taken every hit. Health hits, financial hits, you name it. Like I don't have really any kind of struggles that I haven't been. There probably are. There are going to be lots of different struggles that lots of different people have been through. They're going to differ, but it's so key to understand that you have choices through all of this. On a daily basis, I do hear, this happened to me, this sucks. I wish this didn't happen, blah, 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 blah. And I honestly, empathy in this is important too. We must practice empathy with ourselves and with others. They do suck. The circumstances do suck. It's not that they don't. Getting sick does suck. All of this stuff sucks. Getting into a car accident sucks. There are many components of everyday life that suck. Being diagnosed with chronic diseases, it sucks. It really sucks. But dwelling on that and staying in it any longer than you need to for that particular period of time, of course you can revisit it, will set you back from these habit-changing patterns, because the second that this sucky thing comes into your life, you drop the ball with the habit, and that's it, you don't revisit it. You must revisit the habit no matter what happens that's sucky in your day. And everyone has sucky shit happening every day on small and larger scales. So our choices dictate where you end up. Like in your day, your choices today, amongst a few other things, have dictated where your headspace is now and where you are this afternoon. And I can guarantee that if you had a good day, most of that's going to actually come from the way you thought about it, right? And how you approached it. Not what happened to you. It's so weird, but we really do have a choice in how we handle things as the days progress. Ask yourself before you make a choice, does this serve my purpose, my why, or anything important to me? Sometimes we just make choices at the spur of the moment and we don't think. We don't even stop to think about what it's doing for us. Is this helping me or is this harming me? It's such a key question to ask yourself. Is this for me or is this for somebody else? Ask yourself why you're making that choice before you do it. Practice that internal dialogue, which is what I'll address a little bit later in this podcast. So the idea with habits is to start out terribly, right? And improve with time and make human error or mistakes with particular habits fewer and fewer in between until it becomes seamless and you're naturally adept. So the way that we get better is we make lots of mistakes with that particular habit until it becomes something that is honestly something you could do with your eyes shut. And that's what I say about a lot of things that I currently do repetitiously, is like I don't think twice about it, but there was a stage where it was really hard. Discipline with our habits is something we must teach ourselves, okay? Even though most people would prefer someone else to do it for us, self-discipline requires internal reflection. If you have been avoiding reflecting upon your own behaviour and actions since you were a child, you're doing life wrong. and you're probably not even going to want to listen to this podcast. You're probably going to feel really personally attacked. You're probably going to feel like a victim in this. You're probably going to feel like Mariah's attacking me and it's not fair because you haven't learned how to reflect. Self-reflection is crucial for improving in life, for getting out of the victim standpoint, and certainly for improving your relationships with yourself and others. Self-reflection is not self-hatred. Forcing yourself to reflect is not self-hatred. It's not the same thing. Reflection is a very neutral process. If you treat it that way, you'll have a much better time with it. So self-discipline requires internal reflection without self-hate or deprecation. It requires neutral emotion and a focus on a logical path forward, right? We've just established that. It requires taking responsibility for our own actions, not anybody else's, what we are doing, instead of looking for an escape or an excuse from the outside or somebody to do it for us. It requires drawing boundaries with ourselves, okay? No, I'm not going to put up with my own shit. No, you're not doing that today. No. That's your own self-boundary. You can actually put boundaries up with yourself, the self-talk. It requires igniting the inner dialogue. If you don't have this inner dialogue, today is your day to start doing it. Start talking to yourself. You're not crazy by having this inner discussion, and you will achieve so much in life if you ignite the side of you that gives you an opportunity to change and that you believe in yourself to do so. If you struggle with the inner dialogue, try writing down your thoughts, as I mentioned earlier, and intentions to help with the flow of thoughts and sequential order of the next steps towards the problem, feeling, solution, all of the above, okay? So sometimes it might help to write things down because some people don't actually have an ability to have a monologue, so they can't even have that, a conversation inside their own minds. So sometimes it's actually nice to take ideas and put them on paper so they make more sense to you. Quitting an addiction can also be a way of breaking an old habit or multiple habits and forming new ones, which also takes the same, not the same process as forming new long-term habits, but similar. It's in reverse. So it's breaking it down from where it became something that was toxic to you and understanding your why to breaking that habit and the small steps towards getting there, the long-term things you need to do, and giving yourself little mini rewards along the way that are not related to the addiction. And this also comes into the habit forming as well. Some people do like to have mini rewards to get them through for goals. I don't suggest food. Food is a dumb reward to give yourself because food should be treated as fuel and nourishment, not a reward for something. But certainly you can, work on little rewards here and there. It might be literally something like, you might say, okay, I'm going to go and get a massage, a relaxation massage, if I get to X, Y, Z in this amount of time. Rewards can be a great way of getting through and forming habits because in that, it breaks up some of the shit bits, basically. It makes it a little bit more exciting along the way. Okay, so quitting addiction is exactly the same pretty much as forming a new habit, breaking an old habit, because you're forming a new habit of not doing the thing that you were addicted to, specifically if it's a toxic addiction. It is important to understand and come to terms with the idea that reaching a larger goal will take a series of smaller choices. Yep, I've said it again. I will repeat myself as many times as I need to. Steps, yes, steps, sequential steps. Sometimes they change order. Sometimes you miss a step and sometimes you don't need some. It does change as time goes on. You can adapt and change. But more importantly, the bigger picture is the small choices, the steps towards the small choices, even though they can change. Planning and execution of behaviour, right? Following the promises we make to ourselves and to others. So stop promising yourself and start doing. Thoughts become words and words become actions. So that obviously leads me into this point. When we think about something and then we speak about it and then we do it, that's the process of actioning something that was just a dream, okay? But if you just think about it and talk about it and you're not about it, then it will never actually eventuate. So you need to follow that order. Turn the words into actions. Words remain words without actions, and words can also, on the contrary, convince us that we are held back from our power to enforce action. I'll say that again. Words can stop you from achieving something. Just as much as they can help you to achieve something, they can stop you. Watch the way you speak to yourself and speak to other people. Watch what you're putting out there every day. If you find yourself continuously whinging, complaining, moaning, this is shit, this, oh, I didn't do this today, or this happened to me again, or like the list goes on. If you find yourself cycling around in those thought patterns and the words, if you're actually literally spitting them out into the world, it's not a coincidence that you're not achieving what you want to achieve. It's okay for you to struggle and for you to say, this sucks. It's okay, but follow it up with what's next. What am I going to do about it? How am I going to repair this? What's the, even if it's just like, this sucks today. You know what? It just sucks today. Today is just a shit day, but it's not a shit week. It's not a shit life. Okay? My mum used to say to me, I love my mum. She's great. She used to say, give it 24 hours. Obviously, there are things that take a lot longer than 24 hours, but the small things in days that piss you off, don't give it any longer than 24 hours, okay? Reset. Let yourself reset. And your reset doesn't have to be every few weeks. It can be every day, continuously reset. Learn how to reset faster, okay? It doesn't mean you have to forget your emotions and feelings. It's okay to feel. I've never said it's not okay to feel, but do something from there. Or maybe don't do something. Maybe learn how to relax a little bit from there. Whatever it is that's pressing you, always move forward. Always move forward with time, because time moves forward. Okay, so the last few points. You have the ultimate control over your own choices daily and in turn your actions. It's no coincidence that you've listened to numerous podcasts of motivational speakers who say exactly the same thing in different ways. Okay, so if you're looking for that magical motivation or like that magical key to success, it's in your hands. It's literally in your hands. In fact, it's in your mind. Your mind is the most powerful tool you have access to, always. Always has been. We must choose to refocus as many times, you hear that? As many times as you need to until it becomes something that we can do with our eyes shut, okay? Be okay with the idea that you're going to lose sight a few times, but keep reminding yourself why you started, what you want, and that it's not going to be easy. Habits become solidified through repetition, practice, and patience. New desired habits become an entire lifestyle change, okay? This is how people can reinvent themselves many times over. It takes as long as it takes. Stop asking how long it's going to take, because it's different for everybody depending on how much effort you put in and how many times you get up and how quickly you get up. And also, there's going to be large chunks in there that are going to suck. So just remember, you can't know how long it's going to take for absolutely everything you want to achieve. Okay? Stop watching the clock and think about the next move you can make to bring you closer to what you want, to what you see in your future and the new habits you like to work on. All right, that's it from me for the podcast. Always like to keep them around 45 minutes to an hour. So if you like this podcast, make sure that you share, you like, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to our YouTube. It does help us with exposure, and start working on those new habits today. Don't wait until Monday. It's not a special day. Today. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye.